we have a pandemic of Muslim women just being repulsed by Muslim men in general. And I want to address this topic because it's getting too far from my understanding. I'll never forget this thing. It just came to my brain randomly. I was walking in a restaurant a long time ago. I think it was McDonald's. I don't know what I was. I think I was just getting a coffee and ordering a coffee, and I see this Muslim woman. She was like covered up in a hijab with the whitest dude I've seen in a long time. Like pure white, like a little stick, like tall stick dude. And when I saw it, I first I looked and I didn't really pay attention because I wasn't like processing what's going on, and I was like, and then literally right away I was like, and then in that exact moment, that woman looked at me as well, and she was like smiling at me, like was some, I guess she was like proud of it or something. And then I was like, I kind of like shook my head a bit and kept walking. Now, why am I telling you this story? A lot of Muslim women actually don't prefer to marry like men like this, men like we have in our generation. It's pretty easy for us to sit here and say it's all women's fault, feminism, just like they just all retarded these days. And I agree with you to an extent. There is that factor of feminism and women being weird these days. But nevertheless, I can promise you right now that if you become a man who's competent, who's charismatic, it really doesn't matter what other women are doing, because the thing is you'll have such a big pool of options that you can choose the best ones. Because I can guarantee you there are still some good women out there, and you know this. Like, there's got to be some good women out there. So if you have a big pool, then you can choose the right ones. But I'm going to get really deep psychologically into why we are experiencing this pandemic in the first place. Every generation is repulsed by the sort of ideology they've been brought up by, and they are very strongly attracted to the opposite of that ideology. When I say ideology, I'm talking about like cultural and conservative views. I'm not talking about Islam here. So if you have a whole generation that grew up with these conservative values, like my generation and your generation, because our family went through war, and we're still fresh off this whole like extremely conservative era. So we all grew up in these households where you can't think openly, you can't talk about feelings, you can't really be charismatic. Like the family kind of blocks out your individuality. And if you're not an individual, you can't be charismatic. It's impossible. You're just going to be like a normal guy. So more than women and men are repulsed by this sort of idea. Think about it for yourself as well. What kind of woman are you truly attracted to? I'm not saying like, what Andrew Tate and what these like red pillars online have convinced you that you should be into. Traditional, who doesn't talk, that is, stays at home all day. If you really, really stop lying to yourself, you'll realize that you are attracted to the women that give you the opposite of what you've been force-fed your whole life. You want a woman who's a little bit more open, who's a little bit more like, what's the word? She's a little bit more creative, unpredictable almost, a bit chaotic. That's the kind of woman we are into because that's how we grew up. We didn't get enough of that growing up. So now you have this problem where we are attracted to like something that we shouldn't really be attracted to. So this might manifest in the form of we like crazy women who are like goth, emo, and this all this weird stuff. For some reason, that's attractive to us. And maybe it doesn't apply to you, but a lot of brothers, I can tell you for sure. And it's important to find the balance, because I don't believe that this extremely traditional woman that we are sort of taught to be attracted to is the right woman for a majority of us. And a lot of men are watching this thing. What are you talking about, Boris? Your whole channel is constructed on the idea that you need to marry traditional conservative women. That's true. But we want these days, we want a woman with a little bit of crazy. We want a woman who's got that tad of like chaos, and like, she becomes really loving, and sometimes, she gets really upset, and you have to comfort her, and she becomes loving again. We want that sort of experience. You don't want a woman who's just like normal, like Miss Normal. We don't want that. So now that we've established that, we're going to look at it from the female's lens. Of course, women aren't attracted to these guys, because you know the kind of stuff they say to them on DMs, because they send me screenshots. They say things like, "Oh, like my whole life I've been looking for a woman like you. I kept it really halal, but I was waiting for a woman like you, and we're gonna have such a normal life. We're gonna be such normal people." And they pretend that they're like really, really moral. Like I can't. It's not coming to my brain right now, but I've seen some screenshots where the men are just like really trying to shove it in the woman's face how good of a person they are. "I'm such a good boy, my whole life I've never done anything wrong." That's boring. She's not gonna like you if you like that. Women, in the same way as I just described about men, they want a little bit of openness and craziness in men. This is why they're attracted to like bad boys. Akhi Ayman, perfect example. He's not a good boy because he's been through like a crazy life, right? Like what he talks about. I'm not too familiar with his story, but my understanding is that he's been in gangs and he's been into like stabbings and all this stuff, right? So he would be one of the most desirable men in the Muslim community right now, because he's the only one who's not a pussy. Because there's so many men that are like speaking online and like even in everyday life who just pretend that they're like polished, completely plain white, and not even a single black dot in them. And women don't like that. That's weird. They don't want the perfect guy. They want the guy who's like a little bit crazy, but they want to kind of fix him. Like he's leading towards being a good person, but they want to fix him. And they pick out those men very, very quickly. So it's a bit of a paradox, because obviously if you go and be a bad person and then you try to be a good person, that's not really gonna work, because then you might just end up being trapped in your bad era forever. It happens all the time. Here's what you have to do instead. You need to accept the evil inside you, the hatred you have, your dark side. This is getting kind of cringe, but you know what I mean. Your dark inner impulses, your shadow side, the part of you that wants to, like be violent and aggressive and just tell the world what you think about it. The side of you that's still pissed off at your father and your mom for raising you this way. You need to bring that side of you up, and you need to live in that for a while, at least for a certain amount of your day. You need to use that to, be more assertive in your life. And then from there, then you start becoming a good person. If you're a good person and you become bad, you're screwed. If you're a bad person and you're becoming good, this is what happens. Everything in your life gets better. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will value you more, because he values those who repent more than the ones who never sin. It's very clear in the Quran. Women will like you more. Everything gets better. You know why? Because you're not ignoring evil. You've defeated it. Now, in my life, I guess you could say I was kind of fortunate, because for a majority of my life, I wasn't even familiar with Islam. So I was running a little bit wild. I was like here and there, like I was like getting into fights, and I was like, I don't even want to get into it. But the point is, after I found Islam, I put that on top of my bad personality, of my like evil side. I put it on top. So now I'm what do they call it? I'm a bad guy trying to be a good guy. If you're the opposite, that's not attractive. That's just weird. So this is what you need to develop within yourself. And once you develop that, you'll realize that you can start thinking of so many more things. Like you just get really creative with your life. You start being able to articulate emotions that you never thought you could articulate. You'll become ultra charismatic. So I guess the word that I'm trying to get to here is don't be rigid. Open your mind up. Talk about emotions, talk about things that you never talk about, say things that are completely unpredictable that she would not expect you to say. That's charisma. Modern Muslim women are really attracted to this because of how they've been brought up. This is a real charisma in the modern world. If you ever want to take any relationship or marriage or halal rizq advice, let this be the video that you analyze. Because I promise you, all the things that these sheikhs are saying, that all these other people are saying, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're just saying things that they think work based on theory. Some men that have like clear results, they can tell you 100%. They'll say the exact same thing as me. Maybe not exact same because they're not into psychology, but the result will be the same of what they tell you to do. Now, if you want more help with this, again, I brought my course back on the first link in the description. Halal Rizq course, check it out. So message me on Instagram if you have any questions on it. But this is all I have to say for today. Subscribe to the channel if you found this useful, and inshallah I'll have more videos coming up on various different topics.